This is a perfect example of what the trade-off is going to be if you build this on your own for your company or anything like that. You're going to lose that customer service or having a dedicated team that if it breaks, they got to fix it. Now you own this. So it's all fun and games when you first build it and there that excitement, but here's where my 20 plus years of IT experience, 15 in one company, comes in super valuable. I know what needs to be done to make sure that if something breaks and I, you know, get hit by a bus, for example, that someone else in my team is able to look at it. And here's another spot where you could leverage AI for this. I think I did this for another app that I built, not necessarily an app, more of a workflow. And as I used AI to help me kind of work this out, it already had that context. So, one of the best things you can do if you build something like this, and even if you build it for yourself, nobody else is going to touch it. This is just good practice. Is have the AI help you generate a explainer doc. Good thing to do is you want to explain what does this app do? What are the different variables that you use? So if something has to touch something else for a dependency, document that. So if you're pulling from a requester line to see who is the person requesting this, map out that this goes into Active Directory on the domain controller, and that's where it's pulling it from. So that way, anybody who looks at this will know, hey, this is where I gotta go look. I added a couple of other sections to my document, which is where I add troubleshooting steps. So, depending what part will possibly break, or at least the most likely parts that will break, it goes through some basic troubleshooting on what to look for, what to try and do. And that's so handy. You could also add some appendices if you need, like, just to add some like extra information that wouldn't make sense in the full document. And if you're feeling really fancy, add a couple of mermaid charts or just standard flow charts that will show what the user path is to everything. Just know it's going to be pretty big if you got a complex app. Now, here is a bonus tip that you can do, and your team is going to thank you forever if you do this. Say you isolate this in its own server, right? Build a chatbot that literally lives with all this data, all this troubleshooting data. So instead of you flipping through the pages and kind of like trying to guess where you should look, to be more efficient, you can just set it up where it is a little RAG agent, has this database of how your tool works, knows it inside and out. And then you have a little spot where if you need to troubleshoot, you could just ask it, hey, this is not populating, or I'm getting so and so error code. What do we do? And it'll walk you through it in a natural language. I think that's sometimes I feel like that in and of itself is just very undersold, and not a lot of people talk about it. Now, you also talk about poison dependencies, and this is where specifically, if you are going to do this for your company, it's not just, hey, I built this, let's implement it. No, you got to sandbox this, you have to test it all out. There's a lot of procedures today from an IT standards that you would definitely go ahead and ensure that, hey, I gotta test this in like an isolated environment, a copy environment, a little sandbox, and make sure it all works and then nothing breaks. And if it does break, or if, say, for example, you have a poison dependency, then yeah, the onus is on you to validate all that information. And if you're not feeling comfortable with, everything else that comes by doing this, then I suggest you don't do it. You might want to bite the bullet and pay the extra money to that company, because something does happen, that company would have to handle it. For this one, in particular, I don't believe I had any specific dependencies, but I'll double check. But again, I have 20 plus years of experience doing this, working side by side with app software engineers. So I understand what this is. But if you're just a beginner, you don't have that context, which is why I try to share information to make it a little bit simpler and kind of give you those like little hidden nuggets that might bite you in the butt later on. Great comment, by the way. This is just really good to call out.